What's up, bro?
What's happening, Africa?
You appear to be in a good mood. Where you going? What happened? Oh,
you did that.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, man. Pretty good, bro. I ain't been here in a while. So,
Missed you. You were missed.
Yeah, thank you, bro. Miss you too.
Good. How's everything?
Man. Boys healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we good, man. How about your way?
My boys are good. You know, just doing their thing. They kind of live separate lives when they don't need rides and shit no more. They just call you and ask you to put some money on their card or some stuff. You'll get there. Enjoy them while they're young, man. Enjoy them while they need you.
Hey, the little one, the oldest one, Miles Garvey. Excuse me. Hit me with the, hey man, can I go back to my mom's early?
Damn.
My friend's playing Fortnite at 5.
Hurtful. You ain't got Fortnite at your crib?
No, that's changing.
Huh?
That's changing. Yeah,
it's changing. Oh, you gonna get it together? Like playing yourself. Yeah. What you gonna get? A PlayStation or an Xbox?
I mean, real ones play the PlayStation. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you an alpha or a beta male? That's what I should have asked.
I mean, you already know what it is because I got a PlayStation.
You said PlayStation, so you beta, right?
That's not the way that works, bro.
It's exactly how it works.
PlayStation is what we got. That's what we do. It's a PlayStation.
Oh, you already got a PlayStation?
Yeah. So, when I stopped jamming with the Modern Warfare, I didn't keep the super high speed internet. So yeah, but we gonna get it together. We get it together. I thought I got it together with the iPads. So I got them iPads with data. You can't play Fortnite on the.
You can play Fortnite on the. Oh yeah, Apple is really lame for gaming.
Yeah. So
everybody talking about Helldivers too. I might have to look into that.
I ain't never. You see what I'm saying? This guy right here, the infamous, say he got the PSP. You know what I'm saying? Real man. That? The PlayStation Portable. You don't remember that?
I was never. Listen, I'm my desire to game always butts up against my poverty. So I'm a budget gamer.
Oh, so I think we finna get, and then the hard thing is if you get so I got the Nintendo Switch that connect to the TV, but then they fighting over who playing what. So I gotta get the Switch. And then I gotta get so I already got the Switch, but now I gotta get the small Switch so they can play independent of each other. It's a mess, man.
Yeah, it's hard out here for a parent.
Bruh.
It's hard when you're trying to get the money for the rent. Yeah. But anyway, get them kids. This is our time, adult time. Get your liquor and close the door. So we can talk grown folks business.
With it.
Oh, and congratulations.
I always like when you send topics that don't lend themselves to ridiculous conversations.
You think today's topic does?
No, I think it doesn't.
Let me tell you something. These folks can make anything ridiculous. Some of the
most by these folks, you mean I?
The general public.
No, I'm not.
No, we sit here. We two brothers with a podcast. We superior to everybody.
Hey, I do want to say this about two brothers with a podcast. We are, the way you talk about me rapping wrong, we are definitely podcasting wrong. Because we've never talked about dates, man roles, Jay-Z dinners.
Bring to the table.
We ain't done none of that.
Who gets served first?
Yeah, we ain't done none of those
How
things.
women overseas, how overseas women,
Yeah, like
more submissive. You know, yeah, it's a lot.
We ain't done none of that.
Yeah, so yeah, we not. But I mean, if we could Andrew Tate our shit, and then everybody you meet claims to be against that shit, but I think somebody lying. I think somebody's sneaking.
Oh, I think a lot of folks are sneaking.
It's just like all these brothers that talk that want a woman with strong morals and a traditional woman. And OnlyFans' stock is only going through the roof. Somebody ain't as righteous as they pretend to be.
Yeah. Somebody's lying.
And I don't know who it is. Me, I've never felt pressure or motivated to represent myself as a Puritan. I figure you don't climb up the hill, you can't fall down it. So
yeah. I just like, because I've been forced to watch trash television lately.
By who? Who's bringing you down?
The black woman.
Oh, of course. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the black
I apologize
woman.
for not even,
You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Black woman bringing you
the
down.
Black
Go
woman
ahead.
bringing us down. So she got me watching Ready to Love, I think is the name of it.
I don't know that one.
Man, so these folks go and go on multiple dates with each other. So it's like 6 men, 6 women, but I think it's more than that. Maybe it's like 12 men, 12 women. Like, it's something ridiculous.
Ready to Love.
Ready to Love.
Yeah, that one got by me.
Bro, when I tell you that I look at this stuff and all I think is
it's all black folk.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, bro. It's bad, man. It's bad. And man.
That's it? You know what my wife I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that. You know what my female trying to do? You know what she always mentions every now and then? She'll float the idea just to see how I respond. She'll say, like, we should probably get the Zeus network.
See?
Because it'll be YouTube and it'll be some shit on YouTube and she'll watch a clip and she'll be like, oh, who is that? She'll see Saucy Santana slapboxing with somebody and she's like,
hey, listen, bro.
We should get the Zeus network.
Hey, listen, bro.
Like, nah.
Did I ever tell you my Saucy Santana story?
No.
Me and a coworker are riding to New Orleans. And I hear what sounds like Trina rapping. And I was like, I really don't think I like Trina like this. Like, and it wasn't about Trina. I was like, why she like rapping like a young person? Like, why she not, you know what I'm saying? And she's like, oh, that's not Trina, that's Saucy Santana.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, she's really going off. Like, is this like what all her music is like? And she was like, oh, you don't know who Saucy Santana is. And I was like, no. So then she says to me, you should go as Saucy Santana for Halloween.
Yeah.
So listen, I'm still not hip.
Y'all can be cousins.
So I say, why would you think I would dress like a girl? Like, that's weird to me. And she was like, oh, Google Saucy Santana. And I see this man And I'm so confused. Because this person is really...
Let me tell you something about Saucy. My wife is a Saucy Santana fan. Up until recently, she just stopped being a fan of his because he keep fucking up, right? Like he had this song called "Walk." We all know that you can talk. You talk a lot of shit, but let me see if you can walk. And that was the song. And then we found out that song he was beefing with this other social media star who was in a wheelchair. And it turns out that Saucy Santana released that song "Walk" from and on like Disability Awareness Day to go at this opponent of his that was in a wheelchair. And so we were like, man, this dude is problematic. But then, he went after Charles. He went on social media and started hitting on Charles. And we were just like, too toxic.
Now, that was one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life.
It's not funny. It's ableist.
Hey, or not. Very funny. One of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life. In fact, that is so funny that I cannot wait until this is over so I can share that story to my work.
Don't carry that forward. Don't get caught. Listen, I'm all embroiled. I know all the mess. Don't get caught up like me, man.
Listen, bro. So
listen. Talk sports. But like I said, when Saucy went after Charles and tried to break up that home.
What's the boy name? The boy that always he talked real aggressive about women, but Saucy Santana was like, I'm gonna get them cakes, and he started crying.
That's DJ.
Yeah, him. Look,
Academics.
Look, look. When that man said he was gonna, when Saucy Santana said that he was gonna see that boy. Listen, because this is one of the things my mentor and I talked about. How interesting it is for Black people to be highlighted for homophobia. And our reality is somewhere that's not as clear as those people would have you believe. Because I've known effeminate boys that was crazy athletes that were pretty tough, had hands. So it's this idea that you just go over there and mess with that man. That's weird to me, because I would not advise you to roll up on anybody trying to fight that you don't know. I haven't seen very many of those go well for the antagonist.
Well, I don't know. All I know is, somebody asked who Charles was. Charles is Miss Netta's significant other, and so. Yeah, I know them. I know this.
Wait, I thought Charles was the person that was in the wheelchair.
No, that's Roland. Who is that? No.
The guy in the wheelchair name is Roland?
Yes. No, Roland Ricky or something. I don't know the dude in the wheelchair's name, but I know Saucy Santana was beefing with a guy. He used to say purr. I don't remember his name, but he would always go purr whenever he'd say something to kind of accent or accentuate his point. So purr, but I don't remember his name. But they was beefing because he made some joke. And then, but just recently, Miss Netta and Charles started trending. And then Saucy was like threatening to pursue Charles, even though he was in a committed relationship with Miss Netta.
Oh.
Mess.
That's funny.
Let's move. Can we move on?
Hey man, I'm just happy to know that I got out that Diallo is riding around listening to Saucy Santana. That's not what I would have had.
No. I don't. Not anymore.
First off, that's what you just said.
That song was
first off, that is what you just said. You just said.
Oh, before boy. I knew it was a song making that to make fun of people who couldn't walk.
First off, he's not making fun of people who can't walk. He's making fun of Roland. This guy.
And it was released on Disability Awareness Day or something, or Disability Month.
That is so funny.
Scandalous. Yeah, but anyway.
The Negro has no friends. John Howard Clark.
Did he say the Negro? He just said we have no friends, or he said the Negro has no friends. Okay, let's get into that.
Maybe he said we, but in conversation we refer to we as the Negro.
All right. Well, let me tell you what I've been bombarded by. Right. Okay. Just Monday, I had a brother from Nigeria, an educated man, a man of letters, a well-traveled man, say he does not care about the plight of the Palestinians. I have people here in my own city that only not take a position, but actively campaign against refugees and migrants who are being scapegoated and persecuted and used as a political football by both of the major political parties and corporate interests. And so he said, I don't care about the immigrants. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with Umar's position that there is some conspiracy by unnamed actors within the government to bring refugees here to replace Black people.
The great replacement theory for Black people. Okay.
Right. And so I'm just thinking of people are attacking me when I speak out in support of refugees, in support of the persecuted LGBTQAI people in Ghana and throughout Africa, really, and denounce Zionism in Palestine. People are saying, well, you got to focus on Black issues and we shouldn't be concerned about other people's issues. When I brought up the refugee crisis and was explaining how so many Zimbabweans come to find themselves displaced from a once pretty prosperous socialist nation, they bring up to me, oh, but look at what the Latinos did, or taking over Compton, or look at how Arabs are treating Black people. So it's quite troubling to me that the Black community as a whole, and the conscious community in particular, has a very weak grasp of comprehension of African interest as it relates to solidarity with other oppressed groups and allegiances with other groups seeking recourse from the power establishment. And when people say that we have no friends, they often quote Dr. Clark when he asserted that we have no friends, and I fully agree with that. But he also said in that same statement There's no such thing. He also spoke about two other things that I don't think we grasp or we repeat enough, because the no friends things, number one, it's validated by most of our experience, how Black people have no friends. But he also said that we have to learn the essential selfishness of survival, where you never hear our people speak about the essential selfishness of survival. And then he went on to speak in detail about how there are no permanent allies, there are only permanent interests. So Dr. Clark was speaking at high level political science and philosophical grasp of struggle and revolution for Black people in all movements around the world. So it seems we've settled on the most basic grasp that don't nobody like us, so we don't like them, which is a reactionary position that doesn't speak to or advance African interest at all. And I speak on these issues such as soiled solidarity. There's one discussion that I gave years ago talking about soiled solidarity, how many of the solidarity movements that have used Black people, where Black people were not truly in solidarity, we were actually in servitude, such as the gay rights struggle, such as the women's struggle, and many other what has become to call horizontal movements. And so when you look at particular races, that's a vertical issue. You Black issues or nationalist issues, and then you have, you know, gender issues which cross everybody. People have gender issues cross all groups, classes. What do you say? Economic issues are for everybody. So we have a lot of time and a lot of spillover of really grasping, well, what is in the interest of Black people, and how do we unite with other people who claim to have common cause with us? And so that's why I really wanted to get into this. Yes, we have no friends, but what are we to do with that? How do we respond to that? And what does that really mean in a material context?
So the easy low-hanging fruit of this is really like, you know, my enemy's enemy is my friend, right? Like, and understanding that I have no, it's also Alcoholics Anonymous, something that I think we have really not mastered as well as we should, when they say we place principles before personalities. Because I also think that we spend a whole lot of time and energy and effort thinking about this in relationship to not just emotion, because people use emotion just as the word, you know, typically in a lot of these conversations, just a pejorative, right? But I think really understanding that we're not looking at this from an emotional sense, we're just looking at it logically. What is the best thing that we have? And we don't have to maintain that position. Like, we can ebb and flow with whatever aligns for us best. And that is where we kind of act and reside. Like, we reside in a selfish space of thinking about ourselves and our communities. And wherever we can align, we will. But, you know, I like that they're only permanent interests. The minute that your utility is gone, our relationship is over. And I don't know why it's so difficult for people to imagine. I'll save this thought for later. I won't forget it. But I think we spend a lot of time, energy, and effort wanting to feel loved by somebody, but not realizing that the only people that will ever love us is ourselves.
So down the line, you agree that we have no friends collectively?
Absolutely.
And when we talk about, just because some people might be new to this concept or people not really grasping, And when you assert that we have no friends, you can look historically over hundreds, if not thousands of years. You can even go back to the biblical era. You could go back to the founding of Islam and the refugees that the Ethiopians gave to the early Islamicists. You can go back to the allegiances and the various events in history where Africans have provided refuge or sanctuary for populations, non-African populations, only to have those. I mean, it's too many, but it's too many to even recount. But you can go back to more recent historical events. You go to the Haitian Revolution. And many people don't understand that even during the Haitian Revolution, when the oligarchs, the European oligarchs, started to recede because of the success of the Haitian Revolution, many of the white indentured servants and many of the white working class came hat in hand, begging for also refuge, also begging for support from them. Native Americans, who were once allied in resistance to the spread of the West, then begin to cooperate and coordinate with the slave traders and the slave patrol to capture and return runaway Africans. We see that Africans collectively have voted for and used our citizenship status following Reconstruction and civil rights to tend to be on the progressive or left or liberal side related to immigration. And we see the relentless acts of just recently in Los Angeles, Oakland, of racism coming out of the so-called Latino or Hispanic community. There are many Black people who were staunch opposition to the Vietnam War. Black celebrities and Black activists, Black organizations from the beginning of the Vietnam War spoke out up against, fought against the draft. And we see a lot of Vietnamese. Same thing with the Korean War. Black people have been at the forefront up until the Obama administration, where that reversed. But up until the Obama administration, for over 100 years, Black people have always been anti-war, anti-imperialism to a fault. And many of those groups, Vietnamese, if you know anything about the Rodney King Rebellion and the Vietnamese and Asian grocers, or the Korean hair industry. So just about every group, Irish immigrants, the Irish immigrants, the Italian immigrants, the LGBTQ community. There are many groups who are either non-African or include Africans with a wide array of others. The women's movement, when women were like, can we deal with, we need a big drive for the women's suffrage movement, was the savage Negro male has the vote, but the white woman doesn't. It was a source of outrage and recruitment that the Negro got the vote. The Black man got the vote before the white woman. And when sisters like Ida B. Wells, so even the women's movement, the feminist movement, we know that, what's her name? Gloria Steinem, the mother of the modern feminist movement, was a CIA agent. So just about every justice movement, just about even the communist and the socialist and the anarchist and the labor movement, every Crispus Attucks, every progressive movement in U.S. history and on the international level, every decolonial resistance movement, Black people have always supported the IRA and the decolonization of Ireland, which was 10 times longer than the colonization of Africa. We have turned around and can find instances, not just individual or isolated instances, but where all these people have either periodically or throughout time collectively engaged in racism, discrimination, or joining with our enemies against us after we showed them solidarity and support.
And I want to just add this, just like this slight little addendum. Not only did they join with our enemies after we supported them, the way that they gained access to our enemies is by jumping on us.
Mm-hmm. That's the way they secured. That's the way they
like it was like, see, look, we with y'all. Well, and
right. Even though Ho Chi Minh, not like people are talking about the Vietnamese. You know, I've seen it firsthand. I just got back from Los Angeles a couple of weeks ago. But Ho Chi Minh not only invited and broke bread with the Black Panthers and expressed his solidarity and appreciation for the support of the Black Panthers. When Kwame Ture went to meet with Ho Chi Minh, the first thing Ho Chi Minh did was pull out his UNIA membership card. Ho Chi Minh was a Garveyite. In fact, if you look at from COINTELPRO to the Palmer raids to most of the established racists, they've always said Black people are the weak link in American democracy because we always have what they call pinko tendencies. And pinko tendency was an old world word for red or communistic or socialistic sympathies. We always sympathize with the communists, and just about every single prominent Black person from history after Garvey was accused of being a communist or being controlled by the communists or being from Malcolm to Garvey, from Malcolm to King. And they had giant billboards across white America showing Martin Luther King sitting in an auditorium and claims he was in a communist training camp. You know, so this whole concept of we have no friends is not Black paranoia. It is I think a solid fact in history that no group of people, no matter where they stand right now or where they stand on any particular history, no identifiable defined group of people can say, hey, we've showed unyielding solidarity to the African people and their plight. But there are many people that we can turn around and say, well, the African has stood by you and has been a faithful and loyal ally of groups that go as far as they can with us, but will turn on us at any dime. And I'm not calling for paranoia, but I am calling for comprehension. Dr. Bobby E. Wright correctly said, anti-Blackness is the planet's only universal ideology. You know, even Africans, when they put the Japanese in internment camps, African people spoke out against that. Our leaders spoke out against it. But I mean, many people don't remember it, but there was a time where Japan was considered not only an economic international powerhouse, but people were afraid that the Japanese were going to take over America, that they were going to buy up California, Japanese corporations, and then use California as a springboard to take over the rest of America and there was a time in the 80s where Black people were taking baseball bats and smashing Toyotas because the Asian tiger, the Asian dragon economies. And at that time when Asia, before Japan entered 2 decades of stagnant economic stagnation, they were saying, prime ministers and other economic and business leaders in Japan was saying the reason Japan is surpassing America is because America has so many minorities, mainly Black people, bringing them down economically and intellectually. So we were a drain on the country because we didn't contribute intellectually, and we were tapping into the nation's welfare. So we have no friends. But the problem is too many Black people come to this realization and they have a reactionary, conservative, right-wing, regressive response to this historical reality.
Yeah. Man, you
And
cooking
so, yeah. So what I want to start to speak to is understanding that African people have no friends. There's some points about that established fact. There's some points about that established fact that I want to begin to point out, because number one, what we have to understand as a people collectively, when dealing with politics, economics, geopolitics, and international politics, we don't need friends. So
unpack that.
It is not a tragedy that we as a collective don't have friends. The real tragedy is born out of the fact that we desire or seek or expect to have friends outside of other African people. That we seek to align with other people other than Africans in a sustained, consistent basis. So it's not a tragedy that African people don't have friends. It's a tragedy that African people have the expectation of friends, that we can be disappointed or shocked or taken aback when we all vote Democrats and the Democrat don't represent us, or that Black women can be shocked that they contribute so much and fight so hard for the feminist movement only to have white women stab them in the back. That it could be shocked that Black LGBTQ people were founded the gay rights movement, were at the forefront, bled the most, fought the hardest, only to have log cabin Republicans, gay conservatives, and gay liberals both price them out of the community. And they start, representing their class interests over their gender identity. Or the fact that we are genuinely shocked that Vietnamese or Koreans can come here after we were at the front of all the anti-war protests, that our heavyweight champion of the world went to prison and gave up his title because he wanted to take a stand against the atrocities in their home country, and then have them come here and follow us around their musty stores. So the problem is not that we have no friends, African people. The problem is that we desire or expect friendships in arenas where friendship should not be part of the discussion. That's number one. Number two, well, it's not, and this ain't really in order, but these are just points. You can take them A, B, C, D, or it's not the top one or bottom. But when you mentioned enemies, my enemy's enemy, the only way to have an enemy is to be established unit. I would like to be an enemy of the system, because you have people that act against the state that aren't defined as enemies. You can be a criminal. You can be a malcontent. You can be a victim. But in order to truly be an enemy, to truly be defined or established as an enemy, you have to be an established unit. You have to be an established force with not just weapons or military, but with an ideology, a philosophy, social theories, with a either stated publicly or clear amongst the members, agenda, value system, and relationship to the resources and the economy that is contrary and subversive to the other group. We need to truly become the enemy of the capitalist, become the enemy of the imperialist, as opposed to simply victims or discontents. So I have no issue with enemy, but a lot of times we want to, where they talk this shit about a seat at the table, where we don't do the basic prerequisite to even be considered as a seat at the table. We're not seat at the table. We're on the menu. We talk about capitalists. Even these black capitalists are not truly capitalists. As Bobby E. Wright said, going back to him, you can't be capital and capitalist at the same time. We are human resources. So we should be dealing with economics as being a resource that is exploited and targeted, not deal with economics as people who are directing and controlling the means of production. So that's another point. With this concept of we have no friends, we have so warped our concept or our understanding. And I see so many people say we ain't got no friends and then regress to right-wing xenophobic reactionary conclusions and advocating for right-wing anti-human responses. We ain't got no friends, so fuck the Palestinians. We ain't got no friends, so let them die at the border. Let the Venezuelan and Honduran children drown in the Rio Grande. We ain't got no friends, so let the right wing scapegoat and murder transgender children. We ain't got no friends, so let them do away with Roe v. Wade. To hell with the women's rights movement. So now, and is Ziv taking that position? And then we literally have black supremacist group, black isolationist groups. We got a right-wing conservative, Dr. Fubar, literally regurgitating great replacement theory. When that white boy just ran up in a grocery store, gunning down, shot 20 black people in the black community, and at the top of his manifesto was the great replacement theory. And while the white reactionaries run around, we're being replaced, cultural Bolshevism. So I'd like to get into the appropriate response to the reality and the fact that we have no friends.
Cool. You on one tonight, bro.
Sorry, man.
No, I mean, listen, bro. When you be wrong, I'm here to be like, I don't know about that one. But you ain't wrong.
Right, so we have no friends. We don't need no friends. We don't need to make friends. As Dr. John Henry Clark, who studied black movements, was his area of expertise. From the Reconstruction movement, Deacons of Self-Defense, to the Haitian Revolution, to the various decolonial struggles and decolonial members from Thomas Sankara to Kwame Nkrumah. Dr. Clark articulated to us that when we start to assert ourselves and secure our power, people come to us and seek us out and want to be our friends. As I said, there is documented history at the Haitian Revolution of non-white, of natives, of white indentured servants coming to seek alliances with us. Mm-hmm. When African people were mobilized during the civil rights struggle, the Black Power movement and Black liberation struggles, you had the brown berets, you had the yellow berets who said, listen, these black people got something figured out. And there are people all over the world mimicking not just our aesthetic, but embracing our ideology. When black people were standing up, when we stand up, and when we mobilize and organize for liberation action, we don't make friends, but we do begin to resonate with other liberation struggles. We start to cross-pollinate with other liberation struggles. And this ain't just the imagination. Most of the evidence of understanding this comes from leaked documents from the imperialist, from the CIA, the FBI, the Mossad, MI6. Every time there is an uprising, the first thing they start to think about is how widespread is this? Does this have legs? Does this have the potential to spread? You got people who don't even speak English, but they know the words to it. Revolution has come off the pig. Time to pick up the gun off the pig. And they don't speak any other words of English. You had Che Guevara chilling up in Harlem, smoking stogies in Harlem with black radicals. So what we have found is even the people who claim to hate us, when we mobilize for liberation based on Pan-African radical revolutionary ideology and principles, even our enemies begin to show us a level of respect. When we begin, as Huey P. Newton said, begin to define reality and have it act in a desired manner, we gain the respect of all, and we gain the solidarity and allegiance of some. And that is what we have lost, because ideologically is where we need to land in terms of understanding our relationship to anybody else, not whether or not they like us. So we have permanent interests that have been ill-defined, that have been corrupted. We went from seeking liberation and decolonization to seeking a payoff and seeking isolation. We went from standing in principled opposition to the U.S. empire to demanding that the U.S. empire give African Americans our cut of the ill-gotten spoils of the empire. We don't even know internally. It was very clear before who was with the community as a whole, who stood for and who was united with the people, and who stood against the people. That was very clear in the past. The Negro bourgeoisie, the black bourgeoisie, the black conservative, the Uncle Tom, the handkerchief head, the race traitor. That used to be common lexicon. Oh, that guy's a race traitor. But today, a black man can get up and say before the world, slavery was a choice, and I love Hitler. And all through our community, people rocking his shoes and bumping his music. We got to this day. And we live in the aftermath of a black president, and we still don't understand whether the black president, we still are debating whether or not that black president was for us or against us. So we don't know where we stand. We don't know who stands with us. And worst of all, as Del Jones said, we lose so much, we don't know what a victory looks like. We be calling losses victories and victories losses. Because mainly, and I say this before and I'm going to say it one more time. Another thing we really don't grasp, everybody talks about COINTELPRO. And we see the blood run, like assassinations, the framing and incarcerating of our leader. But if you really think about it, it was not a counter militancy program. It was not a counter gun program. It wasn't even a counter organization program. It was a counter what? What were they seeking to counter? Intelligence. The way we comprehend, the way we process not just information, but how we process and define reality. And it's so crazy that we laymen, back in the day we had this, and back in the day we had that, and ignore the fact that we really have the resources. We can erect another Malcolm or put 10 more Black Panther Party chapters in the street tomorrow. We got more resources and better communication systems and more educated and angry Negroes than they had in the 60s. But we don't do it, not because don't nobody care. Colored folks was juking and jiving throughout history. There's this thing, back then we were so poised and proper. And now it was juke joints and red light districts throughout the hood. And it might not have been crack and scissor, but there was a shit ton of opium and cocaine. It the same problems then as now, but the problem is our intelligence has been countered. When before we would rally around Black leaders who would, whether they were con men or sincere, we would rally around Black leaders who promised to liberate the people and fight for the people. And now we rally around capitalist entrepreneurial motherfuckers that promise us all our own successful business, LLC, and our own luxury SUV. So our ideology has been fucked. Our ideology has been warped. And before, when we would understand that we have to not just seek out allies or identify who are active current allies, who the potential allies are, and who actively works against us. And we could even look at a group and say, well, these are the communists, these are the nationalists, these are the conservatives, these are the progressives. And we could identify within every group the various factions within every group that we could form principled allegiances with and public stances with. And we would establish what this is something we see every day, but we don't grasp, terms and conditions. And we've lost all of that shit simply because, and we got more militants now. I think you got more black people in, like I said, my great grandmother, if you called Geneva Bowie, if you called her an African, she would think you were insulting her. And this old lady who raised up a family through Jim Crow, Great Depression, and every other tragedy, who raised up an African family, was more African, just instinctively, more conscious and more radical in her day-to-day actions than all of the highly educated Africans and Pan-Africanists today, because her intelligence wasn't yet countered, even though she didn't have the rhetoric, she didn't have the books, just instinctually. And that's what we have to get back to.
One of the things that I wrote down were, what are our positions? And I think, I don't want to get too into the weeds on it, but one of the things that I think a lot about is the way that we do so many things to be better, because to be amongst ourselves is bad. And that's the thing that I really can't wrap my brain around. Was riding through a well-to-do black neighborhood, right? And all of these black folk got these private school signs in their front yard. And these not like, this is the talented 10th, if you will. Like these minimum 3,000 square foot homes. And in the front of it, you got a JA sign, which is like Jackson Academy, a segregation academy. And the thing is those people will say, being in a black community, the schools aren't good. When your neighborhood is around the corner from the 3 schools that your child will go to. So if the school ain't good, what does that say about your community?
Well, that's the thing. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
People don't live in the community. They live in their homes. And they define their well-being by the status of their household. I mean, like I said, I'm old enough where I had to go borrow a stick of butter. I've been sent out to borrow a stick of butter, to borrow a cup of milk, to borrow a light bulb. And there's time when my grandmother raised me, and she would give me a roll of quarters or a few dollars, or a grocery bag full of groceries that she didn't get from the grocery store, but she gathered up from our own pantry and our own refrigerator. She used to call it ice box. And I had to run that up the block. And she would tell me, be cool, don't stop and talk to nobody, don't let nobody look, don't make a big thing out of it. Run this up the block. Now, we could be helping to feed another family or paying off a debt. That shit does not happen anymore. And I would like to believe it doesn't happen anymore because the black community has overcome lack, has overcome the necessity to do that. But I do think food instability and food insecurity is still there. You know, I've been in church as a kid where the pastor, greasy motherfucker, would stand up and take up a special offering because one of the families in our church, one of our community, because he wasn't going to give off that original tithe, but he would send out the tray 2-3 more times to speak to, you know, it was before, what's that shit, GoFundMe? Go pray for me, you know. And so that is why that was a community. The word community literally means a shared burden. If you have a crisis, if there is a deficit within your home or within yourself as an individual, and your mind doesn't immediately go to the people around you, your family, if your mind doesn't immediately go to that, then there's an issue. And I don't care if you get a flat tire somewhere and you don't immediately, you go to, AAA. If it ain't a cousin, a homeboy, it's somebody from around the way you could call.
Let me tell you this quick story about my neighborhood. A tree fell on my air conditioner unit. Finally get a hold of a guy to come out there, and he said, well, I need to look at your inside unit. I didn't think I could meet him at the house. So my neighbor up the street, Mr. Hampton, has a key to my house. So I say, hey, Mr. Hampton, this guy is coming to the house to look at the air conditioner. If I'm not there, I just need to make sure you were at home so you go down there, open the door, and just let him in so he could get to the air conditioner unit, the inside unit. He said, what happened to your unit? I say, man, a tree fell on it and broke it. Mr. Hampton says, oh, really? I got a old unit in the back. I might have used it 3 months before we got another one. You can have that one if you need it. And I'm not talking about a window unit. I'm talking about the outside unit for central air. You know, this is a $1,500 repair. He's like, oh, you can have it. Just get out the backyard if you need it. These are my neighbors.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've said, you know, in a few places is that step one is to start building relationships with your neighbors. Just saying good morning.
Right.
Like really being willing to be engaged with your neighbors is so central to what we're trying to build. The other piece that I wrote down in talking about what are our positions is talking about that, because I also think one of the things that tends to happen is the more complicated our situation gets, the more we're looking for these simple solutions, and that's just not how it works. And it concerns me that we've yet to be able to really articulate how we are all we have in any real way. Like when earlier when we were being silly and talking about, you know, black men versus black women, right? When all we've ever had is one another. All I ever have is my neighbors, right? And I don't see how my neighbors being hungry, whether altruistic or narcissistically, my neighbors being hungry will not bode well for me. So again, altruism or narcissism, I'm gonna give you something to eat. Cause otherwise, we in a bad situation if that if that's where we are. And I don't get it. And I really don't understand it either.
Well, one of the reasons I think we lost this, because I say all the time, if we can't be up with you, we shouldn't be down with you. And so a lot of times people only looked at, oh, when I need something, I'll reach out. But if I'm doing good, I don't want to share the abundance. I don't want to. I'll stun on you. I'll flaunt the good times. But like we had a garden here, and anybody who wanted food could come get food. And anybody that wanted instructions on how to plant this and that. I mean, we were running youth programs, so there was we had to kind of regulate the time people had access, because you couldn't have, when we had the green teens and the youth there doing instructions, you couldn't just have anybody walk up. But other than that, when the programs weren't running for the youth, anybody could come. And we had a vandal who would come in and not just pick food, but like chop down orange and peach trees and knock over our tomatoes and stomp out our tomatoes. And let me tell you, the whole South Side was looking for this dude. The whole South Side was looking for this dude. And eventually somebody found him. Can't say who. But, that put a stop to that. And I got community here I didn't even know I had. And it's a shame, because I try to reach out. I got community, and it's people, it would imagine, because they're like, oh, well, Diallo take these hard positions against very well entrenched cultural norms, takes positions against certain people that are held within high regard in our community, especially here in Chicago on the South Side. And, oh, you take all that and you talk about all that stuff. But people know, as Dale Jones said, this is criticism with affection. And I don't punch down, and my analysis comes from, a place of sincerity and a place of reason and facts. And, it's just, I genuinely appreciate the community here in Chicago, but it ain't just when I'm down, I'm like, well, let me look out. If I'm doing good, I'm going to find a way to spread that around, to do something positive and give something to the people around me and to the larger community. So it ain't just about being able to borrow a stick of butter when you're hungry, but it's also being able to put out some cupcakes for the kids in your neighborhood when the food stamps come through. Oh, and I'm sorry, I know y'all surpassed. Y'all ain't none of y'all on food stamps, but when you're doing good.
Listen, bro. I almost said something.
Picking up trash as you go up and down the block.
Hey, listen, bro. Just straight up and down. I almost admitted to something, but just know I know exactly what you're talking about.
Good.
I definitely got some, depending on where you are, I got some things to start that we can start moving through.
Yeah, and then we can open it up. But I did want to kind of talk about, we don't have friends, which is not a tragedy.
No.
And I have to tell you, no other group has friends either. There's another tendency we have to pretend like Black people are uniquely pathological. We don't know how to act. We do this, we do that. Nobody has friends. Right now, the United States says its number one ally is Israel. And Israel is doing everything in its power to shit on the United States. And I can't even get into it, the acts of espionage and sabotage at Israel. Right now, the United States government says that Western Europe and its NATO allies. And every now and then a whistleblower show up and show that the nuclear secrets, that they are spying on each other. They are taping, each other's embassies, harassing and trying to turn each other's diplomats. So we don't have to weep that we have no friends and ain't nobody got no friends and don't nobody need to be our friends. And when it comes to our allies, just like when it comes to your phone, whenever you're going to ally with any group outside the African community, it should come with terms and conditions. And one thing you never want to do, whether it's petty crime or worldwide revolution, you do not want to engage with it on the front lines with anybody who has less at stake than you do. If I'm a petty criminal with no record, I'm not going to go pull a caper with a dude who already has 3 strikes. Because when they say we have you surrounded and you're like, well, you know, we tried, let's head on out there, let's surrender. And dude's like, nah, let's go out like a couple of G's. You know, so whenever we enter into something, we have to know what going into, and we have to understand what we expect to get out. We got to know the terms and conditions. So if you go into a movement trying to get women's rights, and you know white women going to go home to the Klansmen, and you going home to nobody because your significant other been lynched or incarcerated by the unjust system, and when the oppressor comes with the compromise, you know, when the oppressor comes with a weak concession, you should expect it. So we should try to align and understand that we resonate with people who have as much at stake than us and more. And what is to be received, all obligations, and how whatever benefits will be divided have to be articulated. You can negotiate. Most things can be negotiated. In fact, the only thing that cannot be negotiated in such allegiances is principles. You don't, because once you compromise principles, you're doing something different. It's like either you're playing, there's rules to chess and there's rules to checkers. And if you change the rules, then you're not playing the game anymore. So if you're down for revolution, then radical revolutionary principles have to be at the core. But tactics, strategies, methodologies, even priorities can all be negotiated. I really do think we need revolutionary diplomacy. When you have a group saying, well, we're working to deal with violence, and we're working to deal with infant mortality and reproductive rights, we're working to deal with housing. All Black organizations and movements should have people who have diplomatic skills, whether you're engaging members of the Democratic Party or the Democratic establishment, whether you're engaging members of the clergy who have too much an imbalance of power in your community. We really have to start taking our revolution seriously. I know people personally that I've organized with and built with that could go to work and sit in a boardroom, that could go to their jobs and carry out the procedures, very complex procedures, scientists, medical professionals, people in corporate America, that can be strategic and systematic and as cunning as they want to be. And the moment they show up at the neighborhood Kwanzaa meeting, the moment they show up at the National Black United Front meeting, the moment they show up at the Pan-African Study Group, their capacity to reason, to coordinate, to hold their goddamn tongues, to be diplomatic goes out the window. I can just leave. I ain't got to be here. So we need to start actually not just having revolutionary sentiment, not just having revolutionary desires and drives and visions. We need revolutionary bureaucracy. We need revolutionary diplomacy. We need revolutionary agendas. We need revolutionary, radical assessment, radical evaluation, radical regrouping and execution. Because I meet so many people with revolutionary fervor, but have no willingness, let alone capacity to carry out the tedious work of revolution. I mean, that's why I started doing media. Because I'd hit these walls. I get people that I know, and I don't doubt them, to say, I'm ready to die for this. But are you ready to build a spreadsheet for this? You know, are you ready to phone bank for this? You know, are you ready to pick up trash in an abandoned lot for this? So those are the components of a revolution. Is an intellectual endeavor. And most aspects of the revolution have more of a demand for your time and tact than they have for your fervor and your guns. But I digress. So we have to, and I guess we can get into this later because we're getting late, but we have to define what our interests are. We have to be very clear about who aligns and resonates with our interests. I don't give a damn how you feel about Palestine. I do give a damn. Let me not say that. But the reality is the Zionist project is not just anti-human. It's not just unjust. It's not just genocidal. It's anti-African. And the Zionist administrators, the Zionist intelligence agencies, and the Zionist military and Zionist resources have gone across the globe on Africa and black communities here in the United States, from Brazil to freaking Brixton, have been allied with right-wing reactionary racist forces. It is not appropriate for any black person who has U.S. citizenship to validate or support or embrace the jingoistic position of America first, to stand against the rights of refugees. No African should see themselves standing on the side of empire against victims of imperialism, even if those victims of imperialism are not our friends.
Bro.
Even if those victims of imperialism ain't us.
Bro, this is where the conversation just becomes nonsensical to me. If I'm walking down the street and I see a maniac breaking the houses, hey man, I want to stop him before he get way down here. We got to do something. And I just don't understand how such a simple concept becomes like him. Like you think you gonna prove your loyalty to this system when you the fuel that this system runs on?
Well, let me tell you this. This is how this works. I think we and I brought this up before. We mistakenly believe that we have collectively Stockholm syndrome, that we are here in captivity and we begin to identify with our captors. But one thing you miss about Stockholm syndrome is that if you read the story, and I went back and read the report, right? The captors, the people who held the hostages and negotiated with the police, when they interviewed the hostages said almost to a person, our captors treated us with dignity and respect. And whether this is true or not, they said they gave the impression that our captors, the people who held us in hostage under the hostage situation, seemed to be more concerned about our safety and well-being than the police. They said that the police appeared to be more interested in exerting their authority and resolving the standoff than they were protecting the hostages. Whereas the captors were constantly making sure we were comfortable, we were given fed and watered, and that we were not at any area where there could be a potential for a firefight or an incursion. So black people cannot suffer from Stockholm syndrome because your captor has to treat you with kindness and meet your basic needs. We've never been treated kindly, and our fundamental needs have never been addressed in this country. Black people suffer from what could be akin to battered spouse syndrome. And a lot of people who are in a relationship with an abuser or a predator, when they start to project their abuse out towards others, they have the false sense that that energy will not come back to them. So you'll have an individual in a courtship, and they'll see this person being aggressive and violent towards other people for no reason, and that might even turn them on. Oh yeah, my man don't take no mess. This guy said something, and my guy knocked him out. Ooh, yeah, that's why I want to be with a big, strong, tough guy. He takes his gun everywhere he goes. Or they'll be in a relationship, have experienced abuse, but when they start to abuse or attack or fight against others, they think that, well, if I form a united front with my abuser, he will stop seeing me as a target and see me more as an ally. So you'll see that when some people are in an abusive relationship and their family members come and say, well, you need to leave that man, and they start that united front. I've known people who have relatives in abusive relationship, and they were like, we're very cautious about attacking their abuser because then that's going to draw them closer together. I even had a homeboy, shout out to Sage, who was in a bar, saw a guy aggressing towards his woman, threatening his woman, demeaning his woman. It was Stars on Broadway, this nightclub on Broadway in Kansas City. It's been closed forever. But when he stepped to check dude, the woman assaulted him. So a lot of times when you see black people like, yeah, these immigrants, these foreigners, these invaders, these illegals, a lot of times black people say, well, if I jump, I tree, or as Sambo said, I trees coons for you, boss. Clarence Thomas really think, as Kwame Ture say, Clarence Thomas really think that if white folks want to play Nazi, he would get a honorary Aryan card. So I think that's akin to a lot of that, where black people, we intimately know the violence and dehumanizing and the hyper aggression, the pathological aggression of white people, and think, well, if I fly a Confederate flag, if I say slavery was a choice, if I get the money, I always say black wealth is not about black power. Black wealth is a ransom. So that the black people with that wealth cannot have to suffer the ravages of being black under white hegemony. They think they can buy themselves out. So anyway, now we can go to the star comments, but a lot of black people really think they can demonstrate to white people that we have adopted their values, not just speaking white or conducting and moving and living and marrying amongst white, but truly embody the white mentality, the white value systems, taking on the white enemies. And they will and white folks tell them, you're one of the good ones. You're a different one. You're not like this. And that's what they wait for, to pat on their head. House niggas. I mean, this ain't nothing new. House Negroes. Anyway, you got some comments, questions, comments, criticisms?
You gonna vote for Cornel West?
Jill Stein, I don't know. I'm definitely not voting for Trump, and I'm definitely not voting for Biden. And I have to say, beyond that, I'm undecided. I know who I'm not voting for, but I've yet to decide who I will vote for. But I will be voting, and I will be voting third party.
I love this, Chittimacha. Well, you know, if there were no immigrants, then white folks would just funnel all those resources into black communities.
I mean, weren't we doing so good before the refugee crisis?
Yeah, that's what it was, man.
Wasn't it all good the day before?
Yeah, man, we were leaving it up before.
Sponsored a coup d'etat in Honduras, and the United States enacted an illegal economic blockade of Venezuela while issuing a proxy war and coup d'etat. Like I said, if you're anti-immigrant, your best path is to be anti-imperialism. I promise you, if U.S. stopped this imperial machinations, everybody here illegally would prefer to go home.
Yeah, clearly. Communal people, that's who we are as a race. I think that was about your Red Scare jacket that we get put on.
Yeah, but we're being indoctrinated out of ourselves.
Yeah. Anti-blackness is patriotism in America. That's bars, the Juma.
That's all we know.
I'm going to do this one. I want to talk about this. Seems like black Americans hate other Africans. What I always find interesting about this, is that both parties think the other party hates them more. So it just seems like white folks telling us the things. There's a part in Black Boy that I love. Um, Richard Wright talks about working in a hotel or something, and they start trying to pit these two boys to fight against each other. And one of the things that he says that I just think is beautiful is he says that you could deny us our humanity and we would accept it, but if you denied us a dime, blood will be spilled. And I just think about this every time I see that, because you'll see Black Americans swear that Africans hate us, and that has not been my experience in either side, and that's just my individual experience.
Well, that's also not true. If we look at the historical record, when Africans received emancipation and started to form our own civic and community groups as liberated Black people, what did we call our organizations and formations? The African Lodge, the African Methodist Episcopal Church. It was everything. All of our first organizations from Reconstruction were all African. When you look at Africa's colonial war, when Ethiopia was understood to be the last speck of land on the continent that was not colonized, and Mussolini wanted to have a colonial project in Ethiopia, Africans were enlisting to volunteer and gathered millions of dollars, poor sharecroppers, in aid and support and materials, and many African men enlisted to go overseas to fight on behalf of Africans. And the U.S. State Department stopped them, even though the U.S. State Department was allowing Italian Americans to go fight for the fascists and retain their U.S. citizenship. If you look at the boycott of apartheid South Africa, when you look at Jomo Kenyatta, not Jomo, Lord, please, not Jomo, Kwame Nkrumah was embraced when Mandela was freed and and had the biggest gathering. When he came to New York City, they shut all of New York City down. So Africans have not just had affection for Africa, but an absolute connection and fascination with our ancestral home. The problem is who has the power to platform. The problem is that the anti-African Blacks, the sellouts, the self-hating Blacks, are greater platformed, which I understand as a strategy. If I control Western media, do you believe how many leftist radical white people would be all over the airways?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that Michael Parenti and Christian Parenti, do you know that if I had the capacity, Smedley Butler, do you know how many statues to Jean-Paul Sartre and Karl Marx would be? So if I had the ability to handpick who amongst the white person is the spokesperson or the most prominent or the award-winning or the certified, degreed, if I had the ability to validate amongst white people who has prominence and standing within their community, white people would be represented completely different. So the problem is not that Africans don't have love, connection, and a desire to connect with with the African diaspora and with the African continent. The problem is that the Uncle Tom sellouts, and everybody has traitors. We are not unique in that. In fact, white folks got more traitors than anybody. Benedict Arnold. They got a white man that was so treasonous. Then they just lock up another white boy for selling. So everybody got traitors. John Brown, yes. But the problem is we don't control the media apparatus. We don't control the educational institutions. We don't control the entertainment industry. So the scumbag pieces of shit not only get to be seen and heard all over the globe and have their scumbag shitty voices amplified, but also they are able to validate, well, you are a Rhodes Scholar. You will be head of Princeton African Studies program. You get a PhD and you get a PhD. We have a problem. My wife is fighting right now. They have a very conscious Black woman who's trying to get her clinical psychology degree. One of the most competent and conscious and enduring, and she's doing work with incarcerated Black men and mental health. And white folks is trying to cut her off at the knees to make sure she doesn't get her accreditation and graduate. And do you know, if I ran a university, not one fucking MAGA, not one conservative would get a fucking degree from my facility?
Could.
Whatever I got to do, legal or illegal, I'd cut every Yankee Doodle. I'd be coming there with a goddamn flag lapel to Garvey University. You can sit in class. Well, I think, these illegals. I'm like, oh, you think the illegals? Okay, let me just put a check by your name.
Yeah. Say less.
Yeah, so it's not that Black people and Africans love us.
Yep.
And they have made it their duty. Just like going all the way back when the Haitian Revolution came up, the Southern plantation, the Southern gentry did everything in their power to make sure the enslaved Africans in the Americas knew nothing of what was happening just a few miles away. They didn't let no word of what the Haitians, so the solidarity and love that Africa shows to us every day, and the solidarity and love that the African diaspora has for its homeland, the Western media infrastructure, the Western educational infrastructure, the Western theological infrastructure does everything it can to make sure those ties are never consolidated, and when they can and where they can, to make sure we think the opposite of what's real is real.
Do you think it's wrong for us to put us first? I mean, I think that's pretty clear.
Yes, but I don't think we understand what us first means. Yeah. Us first doesn't mean we get all the white fiat. Us first means our ecosystem. It's called the essential selfishness of survival. It is called the essential selfishness of survival. And so we have to be clear on who's us. Clarence Thomas ain't us. Kanye West ain't us. Barack and Michelle Obama ain't us. So first of all, we have to be clear on who's us. But once you put us first, then we are not only allies, but assets to the rest of the oppressed people.
Indeed.
So if I'm standing here, I'm going to support Antifa. I'm even going to support the Earth Liberation Front. I'm going to support the white communists before I support fucking Jay-Z and Beyonce and Kanye West.
Yep.
Yes, we should put us first, but once us is defined, us is the conscious revolutionary Pan-African people who seek liberation and restoration of the planet's ecosystem. That's us. Then it's very clear who comes first, second, third, and down the line. It's very clear on who we can be allies with and who we cannot be allies with. So yes, I agree we should put us first. And once you but you got to define us first.
Do you think Dylan Roof should get the death penalty?
No. I don't think anyone should get the death penalty. I don't think any state should reserve for its right to murder citizens. Yep. I oppose the death penalty.
Yep.
Absolutely, for any and all crimes.
And this is where it gets weird for me, because I definitely want to say that I oppose the death penalty. Like, I definitely want to believe that. I also just, it's hard for me, right? So, but I don't think this guy should get a death penalty. I don't think he should get out, but I also don't think he should get the death penalty.
What does the death penalty accomplish?
Nothing.
Name a functional healthy society that employed the death penalty.
But I know this.
What really clarified it for me is when I was a kid and I read Live from Death Row. How can you read Mumia's writings and support the death penalty?
Listen, bro. Shaka Zulu got that work. I also, again, I put myself, listen, I don't want to see nobody get the death penalty. But somebody hurt my baby. Do I want my pound of flesh? Probably. So
and that's but
and that's what I'm saying. Like, so that's what I'm saying. I can even acknowledge that ain't good. That ain't gonna bring my child back. That ain't gonna nothing. But that's where I am with it. That's where I am in my process. I can say I want to oppose it, but I know for a fact somebody hurt somebody I love. So yeah,
can't compromise principles.
Yep.
And no matter what any individual can do, the state is always more dangerous than any individual.
I agree.
The state has the greater potential for destruction than any individual. So just as I don't want to give individuals the right to murder other people, I definitely don't want the state to have the right to murder other people. And if you can find in history where a state justly employed the death penalty,
Shaka Zulu, I just told you.
You think he justly deployed it and utilized it?
No, when they killed him.
Oh. Now, again,
I'm
against the death penalty, but that's the state. Now, Winnie Mandela.
You see what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying, bro.
That's not a death penalty.
Bro, all right, bro.
That's guerrilla warfare. I support guerrilla warfare. I support revolutionary, offensive, and defensive violence for means of revolution.
And if
Winnie Mandela became head of state, who should have been the head of state, not old Nelly Mandela, that coon ass sellout. But if Winnie Mandela became president or prime minister at that very moment, I would campaign to take from her the power to determine life and death.
Cool.
But as a revolutionary leader and a guerrilla warrior, I support her 100%.
Amen. Friendly fire, agree to coward. We can't have friends until we target capital and resources to exploit for our collective benefit.
We can't have friends until we target capital and resources to exploit.
I marked this because I just thought.
I don't understand that comment.
Yeah, I want. I really would like for you to put the link in the chat for Roz Dawes to come in. Because I want to really understand what you're saying. I marked this because I thought to myself, I don't want to exploit anything. So, maybe you mean something different. I just wanted to make sure that you had that invite, so we'll be there.
Well, and I if I'm going to try to read into what he's saying instead of read what he's saying, until we are in a position, until we have our fundamental needs met, we can't have friendships. We just argued that we don't need on a geopolitical, ideological spectrum in a struggle, in terms of liberation struggle, we don't want friends at all. We don't need or want friends at all anywhere. But if you're using friends to be synonymous with allies, sometimes allies is what gets you to that point. So but again, I'm reading into what he said as opposed to what he said.
All right.
Okay, we got Nico.
Yeah, let's go bring Nico in.
Nico, you're live with the Rational Radicals.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
What up with you, Afro?
I'm good, bro.
Oh, that's good. That's awesome. First off, I definitely wanted to just say it's awesome what y'all doing. It reminds me of like what Fanon was saying about listening to like the resistance radio in Algeria and stuff. I always come in and you know what I'm saying? Just get that good rhetoric, and it always has kept me grounded. I'm curious about your opinion on this might be a little off topic, but I'm curious about your opinion on like white vegan, and I guess their use of maybe slavery to try to convert black people into veganism. I guess it's specifically for Diallo because I'm curious on that. As a black vegan myself, you know what I'm saying? I definitely run into just problematic rhetoric when it comes to the vegan community. And so I kind of go by plant-based now. And I'm just curious how you've been, because I've been vegan for about 10 years now. I'm curious how you, roll with that when you're going on talking with people.
Are you referring to PETA, right?
I mean, I call them like PETA adjacents, really. You know what I mean? Like just like people who are like, oh, I'm not voting for XYZ because they don't have animal rights in their like policy or some shit like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like those white vegans who is like single line voters for pig killing, which I mean I agree with. Like, I hate all that shit, but it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, come on now, be serious, be real. Like, so how do you deal with them when it comes to like trying to be, because I think you can't be vegan without being like radical, without being like anti-imperialist, without having all
you
the
don't think
ideology.
so?
You know what I'm saying? You can't do
Bless
any
your
of that.
heart. No, I've seen some reactionary vegans. Have you heard of eco-fascists?
Well, I mean, I can understand the concept.
Hitler was a vegan, right?
Oh well, yeah. Yeah.
So you say you can't be vegan without yes, yes you can. You can absolutely be vegan and have everything else about you to be racist, right wing, and reactionary. Every other aspect of yourself. There is a very strong eco-fascist movement, and even there are people saying that they want to stop the flood of illegal immigrants because they are going through protected areas with vulnerable species. There are many black developers who were trying to make economic moves and would have the EPA and environmental groups come in and say, well, you can't develop this territory. You can't build this beachfront property because this is a nesting ground for this rare. So white people, Theodore Roosevelt, the founder of the national parks, which I support, wildlands, was the leader of the Rough Riders, which was always, and I could never call myself a DMX fan because he got black people out here calling themselves Rough Riders. And Rough Riders were literally American kill teams that would go into areas of and murder formerly enslaved Africans who were trying to build a nation, murdering enslaved natives and displaced natives who were trying to assert their power against the former colonial powers. The Rough Riders was an extermination kill team that targeted black people, formerly enslaved blacks and natives. So anyway, but he helped to establish the national parks. That's what the teddy bear is named after, because he gave territory to help conserve the grizzly.
Okay.
So to the extent that a white vegan can be and has been, and also Hitler, some of the wildlands throughout Germany, and Germany is one of the Western European countries that has some of the largest percentage of old growth forest, because that dates back to Nazis' policy of Lebensraum and environmental. So don't think because a white person is at the market with a basket full of organic tofu and fennel that they don't go in that booth and vote MAGA. So don't get it twisted. But in terms of, like I said, there are true leftist environmentalists like the Animal Liberation Front. I fully support and endorse the Animal Liberation Front that go in and sabotage factory farms and go in and disrupt the pipeline of animal processing and mass slaughter of animals. I understand it was actually Dick Gregory who said when he would see the industrial animal system, that it made him think back to slavery. When he saw the cages and basically not acknowledging that these are sentient creatures who are capable of suffering, and everything they said about, they remember when you say an animal is a slave, we were defined as chattel.
Right. Linda Brent actually had also made, if you know, she wrote slave narratives of a slave girl or something like that. was one of the first female slave narratives to be popularized, and she actually made that comparison herself.
Right. So I don't get offended when white people say, well, the animals are treated like slaves. It's not elevating animals to humans.
Right.
Our ancestors were reduced to beasts of the field.
I just think that
our animals were reduced to the status of chattel.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I know how black folks, we was enslaved, don't say that. And then the Jews get mad when they talk about a holocaust of the animals. I can respect that. But linguistically, historically, it's actually factual because our ancestors were bred.
Right. It just feels like the N-word.
Bought and sold, ghetto boys say, we were bought and sold like used automobiles.
Yeah.
Where they would check our loins, they would check our teeth, they would check our girth. You know,
facts. It just feels like the N-word.
When they say,
I can say
that. The animal industry is akin to slavery, it actually was because we were reduced to livestock.
Right.
I mean, when people were when people were coming overboard, when they were bringing us over on slave ship, and they would hit bad weather, and they would debate: do we throw over the livestock? Do we throw over the oil, or do we throw over the cargo? We were cargo. And one more thing, I've never seen a society that treated animals like commodities that were able to treat human beings and respect the humanity of other people. So acknowledging and respecting the natural world is synonymous with respecting other people.
Damn, so I got to give it to them then, basically.
I mean, or you can cut them out. I mean, like I said, if you say no, I don't. But like I said, you can't argue that it's not accurate.
Well, I'm not going to not argue that it's not accurate. It's just more so, again, like I think it's kind of like the N-word. Like, well, I could probably say that to a black person, they would understand. But if like, you know what I mean, like a white boy comes and like they come with that hubris that they usually do when it comes to veganism. I don't want to take up too much time, but you know what I'm saying. Like it just hits the wrong way. You know,
just hit them back. Just be petty. Say, oh yeah, no, it's not an animal slavery. It's animal holocaust.
Fair. Okay. Now you're right. All right. I appreciate you, man, so much.
All right. I appreciate you too, Nico.
All right, bro.
All right. Here we go. The key is to be strategic with our support. I understand the point you're getting at. We need more understanding of the system, though. I think that's, pretty clear.
Well, and support, what does that mean? Because I'm more into alliances. Yeah. I'm more into solidarity than support.
But I think, and we've talked about, this a lot. I mean, I think there's always nuance, but I think your high school state debate champion is coming out. I would assume that people are using the word support in the way that you're talking about alliance.
Varsity debate.
Okay, varsity.
I got two varsity letters, one in debate and one in theater.
Okay, a man of culture.
And my girlfriend at the time refused to wear my Letterman jacket.
Yeah, I mean, it got to be weird to see like your little school on there, and then
it's hard to get as the football letter in sport.
The mask, to see the mask and a little book. I mean, that really don't give off the thing. What are some of the things we need to define our own reality? That's a good question.
All we need is an intellect, an ideology. Now, there's some things we need in the material realm to make it act in the desired manner. But we can
Papaditas, come on, make your statement clearer if you want. Chitty Masha's here.
Yeah, long time.
Welcome,
Chichi Matcha. You're live and direct with Bro Diallo and Skip.
Good evening. Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Which Chichi Matcha did we get tonight?
What? Wait, what did you say?
Which one is here tonight?
What you mean, which one? I'm always polite.
Sometimes you okay. All right.
I'm always polite. No, I wanted to say one of the things, and I know you don't like the word white supremacy. You prefer white pathology, but
White
I feel like
hegemony.
a lot of what drives the lack of solidarity is the the colonized mind that we all suffer from. And one of the things is like the anti-blackness is specifically cultivated in ways that we don't realize, like even overseas. So in like traveling overseas, I was in a country one time and it was a Discovery Channel show, and it was an hour long, and it was this every trope that you can think about Black men is what it was. They showed this Indian looking Black man who had apparently made it into, and this was Connecticut, this upper income white neighborhood and violated a white woman. And it was just like white man after white man after white man on camera talking about, this vile, this dark, and just like having to go in on this man. And so it juxtaposed this poor Black man against this rich white community, which by the end, like it could have taken like 3 minutes to tell the story, but it went on for an hour. And before I looked at that, I hadn't understood that beyond American TV shows and Hollywood entertainment, that's problematic, that white supremacy in the US empire is actually making specific targeted shows for an international audience, showing things that they couldn't even get away with showing here. And so that's why a lot of times, or sometimes when you have immigrants come here, they already have the anti-blackness ingrained because it is being cultivated. And I mean, at the end of this program that went on for an hour, I couldn't even see, I'm like, did this man really do this? Because I couldn't figure out how, looking the way he looked, got into this neighborhood and into somebody's home without being shot. But those are the kind, and I mean, it's not done, I mean, it's very overt. And I've seen that in different countries when I'm traveling overseas. And these are American, like Discovery Channel. I thought of Discovery Channel as nature programs, animal programs, and that kind of thing. But I had never seen that kind of programming from Discovery stateside. And so that anti-blackness, it's not something that's natural, because if the original human beings were Black, the original human beings were dark complexion, to be anti-Black is not a natural thing. It is being cultivated by empire and cultivated by white supremacy. And I know for me, while it can be oftentimes annoying dealing with the anti-Blackness, I'm always looking at it, okay, you're suffering from internalized white supremacy. And then I just need to move into a different space, or at least get myself in a different headspace. Because when you find other people, other groups of people or individuals who have divested from white supremacy or who do see empire for what it is, they tend to not be anti-Black. But so it's always a setup, setting us up with anti-Blackness as much as possible. That way, everything that's wrong with America, it's us. Everything that's wrong or can't get it together, it's us. And then one other story I wanted to say is also when we have, say, immigrants in our community, and this was, and I can't remember the professor's name, but she was a Korean American professor out of UCLA. And she said, like, during the pandemic, having time to think, she asked her mom, like, how did you get the money to start the business? Because they owned they owned like a liquor store in a Black neighborhood. And her mom tells her, well, we promised to pay it back, and they just said, okay. And she said it was her parents and 2 uncles within 1 year of coming here with absolutely nothing had a business. And she told her mom, she's like, Mom, do you understand that Black people can't do that? Do you understand that it's not that easy? And she didn't know. And so that also is part of the setup, because if other people are coming here as immigrants with absolutely nothing, and they're able to like have a business or do something, buying into that American rhetoric of all you got to do is work hard and you make it, they don't understand that we're not getting the same privilege. So then they think oh, well, Black people must be lazy. That's part of the setup of white supremacy. Black people must be lazy. Y'all just don't know what you're doing because, look, I came here with nothing, but that's on purpose. And that also sets us up, divide and rule, conflict. They're in conflict with us coming into our communities. We're in conflict with them because we don't understand that, oh, it was, you just promised to pay it back and they said you could have the loan to run a business. So it's just, yeah, I think that's also a big part of the, and we have to take that into account, not to necessarily act differently, but to think differently about the situation, or to think deeper about the situation and how we're being set up with that.
I appreciate, it's a couple of things. You know, I appreciate that you said anti-Blackness isn't natural. You know, that's absolutely true. But I think we do have some misconception about these immigrant-owned businesses and the status of immigrants coming here with nothing, which is so many myths stacked on top of the myth we don't really have time to get into. But I think Dr. Jared Ball is so thorough in kind of dispelling that whole they come here with nothing and start a business, and what these immigrant-owned businesses in the Black community, how much wealth do they really generate, and what are their status. So, you know, even though I won't rehash but I think if you looked into Dr. Jared Ball's analysis and assessment of that situation, he gives a lot of insight, really, really, really good insight. And it pains me to say it because, you know, I prefer to hate on Dr. Ball than complimenting, but in that arena. So I appreciate you, Chi-Chi Mata. And I'm glad we got the good Chi-Chi tonight, not the hater Chi-Chi.
Well, I have one more thing.
One more thing. All right.
Just to address one thing, when you said like American Indians as slave catchers, whenever we talk about that relationship, we also have to talk about specific tribes, because there were tens of millions of people here.
I agree. Okay, you got me.
That's it. We have to talk like, because there are other instances where there were maroon societies, and that's
I agree. Yeah, yes. I will no longer say Native Americans enslaved us. I will speak about the Federation or the 5 civilized tribes, or what I will say specifically which tribes or which network of tribes or First Nations engaged. I won't just say Native Americans, because there were Native Americans who cooperated and coordinated and supported Africans in our effort to escape chattel slavery. I appreciate you giving me that point of clarification.
That was it. So thank you.
Well, I knew you was going. I knew it.
What? I was not.
I knew you was going to come with some hateration before I knew it. But you're right. You're right. I shouldn't just say Native Americans. It's irresponsible.
It's all love. I'm not trying to be problematic.
I'll talk about the goddamn Cherokees and the punk ass Apaches. Okay.
Cherokees, Chickasaw, Creek, and then there was another layer.
I will talk about the Indian masters, the Native American masters. I will be more specific because they are diverse nations and not all of them participated. And so it's irresponsible for me to say Indians enslaved us.
Okay.
I appreciate you giving me that point of correction, which is why probably the only reason you came on here.
Peace.
Okay.
All right. Papa Diaz made it.
Okay. Papa Diaz, welcome to the Rational Radicals.
Peace. What's going on, fellas?
What's up with you, African?
I'm well.
Oh, that's good, man. That's good. I was just elaborating. I wanted to elaborate a little bit more on what I was asking. And because one of the things I do think is we have to have some kind of vision, but that vision does entail us kind of figuring out exactly what we're dealing with currently. And I guess that means, especially speaking from my perspective as a Black male, of like kind of decolonizing our way of thinking, right? But then in that same process, we have to really consider what is masculine, what is a man, and not under this system. And that's one of the tough parts that I see in conversation when I have with other individuals. And some sisters are more like understanding and kind of grasping it. Some brothers are too. But I noticed that that's a tough thing. And I've been reading up more, doing some reading on Black masculinity, some stuff with Dr. Tommy J. Curry. Like his book is pretty dense with information. And Measuring of a Man by Melissa Stein, some good work there. So I'm just trying to see, what is your perspectives, both of you brothers, on the vision that we should have as far as how we should imagine ourselves in the future and really presently right now? Because we're not going to get nowhere the way we envision things and with the media implanting things into our mind and how we should be and how we should look. You know what I'm saying? And with that, I'll mute my line.
So I don't know how important being a man is, and I say that as a person that is definitely a man. But I think sometimes we unnecessarily gender things. I don't really know what my being a man adds to the conversation. Like, it definitely informs my personal context, but I don't really know what it does. Like, it's just kind of like one of those things that I think can be used in conversations like these to identify a particular blind spot that I may have. But like, to kind of walk through the world thinking about being a man isn't something that I think I do. And one of the reasons that I find myself being able to talk about this is because of my work. I work in an organization that centers outcomes for Black girls and women, right? And largely in that space, you find yourself, there are definitely things that are different in my life and the lives of the women that I work with, right? But for the most part, it's just kind of what it is. So I want you to think more about your humanity outside of what people tell you it is.
Can I add something on that? And I'm
Go ahead.
Kind of just my positioning on it is that it's pretty noticeable, the perception of males, right? Because we're still considered boys. We're not even considered grown adults, but it's a tricky thing because there's a level of fear that the outside society will perpetuate and put on us, and that we got to kind of address and deal with being males that are Black. So that's why, like, I understand what you're saying, but I still have to take that into consideration when I move throughout society. Do you get what I'm saying? There's a level of understanding that I still have to have.
I'm picking up what you putting down.
That's all.
I'm picking up what you putting down. I'm also raising 2 sons. So, like, I definitely am picking up what you putting down. But I also think that the way a person responds to me, I may have to deal with the outcomes of that, but that just ain't no shit that I really spend a lot of my time and energy on. Because you're going to, if that's what you want, if that's the type of time you on, no matter what's happening, you're going to turn that into justification for whatever it is that you automatically think.
So I understand what you're saying.
So if I'm quiet, it's because I'm menacing. If I'm loud, it's because I'm menacing. So ultimately, like, it don't matter what I do, you want me to be menacing, so that's what I'm gonna be. So I don't spend a lot of my time and energy trying to engage with that. And I I think one of the things that this thing that we're fighting will love to see us do is to waste time.
Yeah.
And I'm just not gonna give it a whole lot of. I'm not gonna give it a whole lot of my energy and time and conversation and thought, because again, like you're choosing to be on that, not you, of course, but the enemy is choosing to be on that. So I'm just gonna be my whole human self, and I'm gonna walk and live in that. And if you, second person plural, choose to have a problem with that, we'll address it when it comes. But for the most part, I'm not gonna waste my time on that. You see what I'm saying? Like, because I don't want you to think that I'm dismissing you or trying to, big bro you and nothing like that. But it's like, I think just that conversation is not about me being a good dad. It's about me being a good parent.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
Here it comes.
Don't even give me a gun. You handle that very eloquently and gently. Because all right, I'll say it. You're obviously waiting for me to say it.
I mean, you ain't got to.
United States. Okay. All right.
You ain't got to.
Well, we grown folks. We could talk.
Okay, there you go. So
I'm gonna say it.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. No black man in this country is oppressed because he's a man. The United States is an oppressive society that has almost universal oppression across the board. And one of the ways that it is allowed itself to obfuscate oppression or distort this universal oppression is by allowing non-oppressed groups or non-oppressed categories or classifications to feign oppression, right? So you have shit like straight pride movement, the men in this movement, White History Month advocates, right? Yeah, and who are the people where the rich are the true victims. The rich are having are the ones being stolen from. The rich are being burdened. So maleness, heterosexuality, Christian persecution. You hear more about Christian persecution in America than anywhere where places where Christians are actually being persecuted. Christian, wealthy, abled people, neurotypical people that are burdened because I have to political correctness. I have to be political correct, so I'm oppressed. I have to figure out someone's pronouns. I'm so burdened. I have to look at a movie with minority characters in comic book movies. I'm oppressed. So if you do have components of yourself because you are oppressed, because you are an African under white hegemony, but you are not oppressed because you're a heterosexual, cisgendered, neurotypical, able-bodied man. Those are not sources of your oppressions, and those are not things that you should rally around.
No, I'm not
saying.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm using you as I'm sorry, but
I was just trying to like give some context to what I was saying.
I'm just saying when you talk about we as men and men, like everything Skip said.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be in this kind of like black manosphere type. I'm not trying to have that conversation. That's not where we're going.
Somewhere. Every filthy person got that first speck of dirt.
And see, and like that's the thing, bro. Like,
but let me finish this.
Oh, go ahead.
This is a system where people talk about the victim mentality, but you never hear anybody talk about the victimizer mentality. This is a system that degrades you for being prey and praises you for being a predator. So we as black men, our system that we're under is racist, but it's also patriarchal.
Right. And
there are several components, which is why you have so many more black men that align with Trump, that align with these racists, that go from listening to Kevin Smith to supporting Joe Rogan and Andrew Tate, like Dave Chappelle. Because They can play on the fact that we are like, I'm a man, therefore I should be in control. I'm a man, therefore I should be powerful. I'm a man, therefore I should be able to assert myself and articulate myself through violence and force.
Yeah.
And we don't get to be men. What we're really saying is like we're not real men, meaning that we do not have an abundance and an unjust amount of wealth. We do not have the capacity to exert violence against those we deem worthy of violence. But we don't have people to submit to us. So as we define a real man, a real oppressed man is a man who is humane, who is radical in terms of looking at the fundamental cause, and one who makes a positive contribution to the just aspirations of his people and does not allow himself to compound or contribute to anyone else's exploitation or oppression. That's a man. That's how you define a black man.
So that's basically my question in the chat. You kind of just answered some of it right there. And that's what I'm trying to get at, is that getting away from that type of quote unquote that mentality of duplicating what white men do, except doing it as a black man. Exactly.
It's not even duplicating it.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. My mindset is where I'm trying to be very particular and I'm just trying to be very rigid with myself and making sure that I get those things out of my system bit by bit, because I think everybody's been trained in that way in America, and you have to make a conscious effort to not do that. And that's why I say it does take some kind of vision and some kind of imagination that you have to see yourself in that position of being better and being more than just this quote unquote mimicking man of a white man. That's what I'm trying to get at, is that vision, I think, and that imagination is something that we have to keep actually fostering and watering, like the plants you got on your shelf and Brother Skip. You know what I'm saying? So that's the reason why I made that statement and that question.
Right. And it's not exclusive to black men. I mean, we all got Candace Owens. We all know who that is. So it's not, you know, we got Kamala Harris up there standing arm in arm with Genocide Joe. So this is not exclusive to men.
Right.
You know, but but you brought up men. If you want to, you know, instead of, we say we want our podcast to go viral, so we got to start dealing with these females.
That's what we got to do. We got to talk about these females.
Talking about the brothers. What about these females? So we can talk about the females as well. So
strange. Like female what? Because like I thought
these females. Come on, man. You know the Reddit. Do you want to go viral or what? You want to get?
Yeah. Okay. My bad, bro.
6-figure viewership or not? Damn. Excuse me. Keep messing up.
No, thank you, brothers, man. I appreciate it.
All right, appreciate you too.
All right,
I'll catch y'all later, man. Peace.
All right.
All right.
Okay. Oak. God damn it.
Peace and love to you, great man. Big shout out to you. I just want to piggyback on the things that the two last callers have said. When it comes to how we shape our society to be sure that we do not fall to the category of whereby we are developing a Pan-Africanist movement that is patriarchy. How do we follow the philosophies of which philosophies do we subscribe to? And so one of the things I like about Dr. Marimba Ani is how she always, for example, when she said, you know, she looked at the white pathology through their silly, you know, through an African view and all of that. So what I really would like to know is how do we make sure we do not replicate the same mistakes we're trying to avoid? Because we have to make sure, okay, which lens do we look at it from? That's my question on that, what Papi was trying to, on the question of Papi. On what the other sister asked about Africans, you know, thinking African Americans here lazy. I agree that we have this synergy, this love that we are unable to define yet. But one of the things that I would say as a Nigerian who migrated to America about 9 years ago, a lot of Africans, or Nigeria specifically, and Ghana and Ethiopia, we have spent a couple of times in, is that the mentality side that exists, that it's mind blowing. Africans do not properly understand. As a matter of fact, in Nigeria, history is not being taught at all. History is not being taught in our schools. I mean, in junior high and secondary schools, history is not being taught. So there is this bifurcation in understanding of African Americans, what the reality on ground, and what Africans really know. So when Africans come here, often at times you'd see Africans come here and indeed do think African Americans are lazy. So they are speaking from ignorance, but it doesn't mean they don't really love, as a matter of fact, as a Nigerian, there's a nickname that is given to African Americans. It's called Akata. I'm familiar with that. So I always ask my friends when they use the word Akata to refer to African Americans, I'm like, why don't we use the word like our cousins, our lost cousins, or our Asian cousins? Must we use derogatory terms to refer to African Americans who, in my opinion, would actually channel one of our biggest liberation in the future? That's what I have to say on that. And lastly, what I want to say on we do not have friends, I cannot overemphasize this. If you do not bond with me on how to be financially liberated, I do not want to trauma bond with those kind of people. Because when we say we do not have friends and we want to speak for other people, I think it's trauma bonding. But the same people are not trying to find financial liberation for us. That's the way I see it. I'll give these two examples and I'll go. Currently in Sudan, as we speak in Sudan, the Islamization of Sudan is what is currently causing the killings in Sudan. There was a time the Islamists were trying to Islamize the northern parts of Nigeria. So that dogma, I have firsthand experience of people using that Islamic and Muslim religion to invade my own territory. I mean, terrorize farmers and kill and plunder and all of this. And so hence why I had that opinion last Monday.
Kidnappings.
Yes. And that's why I had that opinion and say the origin of these dogma. I'm not saying I want the I don't want the Zionists to win. I want them to. I don't know what can happen. I just don't want them to exist either. But I have so much problems as an African that I do not think I have the attention span to think about other people's problem. Our women are bearing their Arabic names. They're dressing like them. They pray to their God. I mean, it's amazing it's just mind-blowing. But I'll bounce out and I'll just listen. But shout out to you guys. I think that is one of the things I like about Sean Kuti and this channel. Once we continue to talk about it, we disagree, we'll continue to talk about it. I think Africans will get enlightened, and when we know better, we'll do better. Thank you very much, guys.
All right. You have any responses?
No, I think he said it.
Yeah, I have some responses, but me and Oak already had a round this week.
Okay. Yes, we did. We did.
Yeah, and I was asking him if he's still angry with me, but now since I'm mad at him, I'm not concerned whether or not he's mad with me. All right. Until next time, brother Oak.
Yes, boss.
Okay, we're gonna lightning round this. No, just 1-2 minutes, and because we're overdue. So West Bank, Dre, L, we're gonna try to get to you, but I'm sorry because it's late. We're gonna lightning round these last few posts. Do you have any comments, comments you want to get to before we get to the?
No, let's wrap it up. No,
okay,
man,
let's light. Sorry,
man,
West Bank
Bell.
Bell.
They got to wrap.
1 to 2 minutes max.
West Bank, like West Bank.
West Bank Bell. Concise. Okay, we'll try to come back to that. Dre, 1 to 2 minutes max.
That's perfect time. Peace, good brothers. Diallo, thanks for the buttons I got this week.
All
right. Simple
my
question.
pleasure. Thanks for your support.
Hey, likewise.
Then you put that man out. That's crazy,
No, I
bro.
didn't. I didn't do that. Hello, Dre.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Sorry about that.
Nah, it backed out on me too.
I
What
did
happened?
that.
Damn, I thought it was good. All right, let me get to a point. Okay, Diallo, here's what everybody's trying to get to, and I've been thinking about it for a long time. Cause I got a T-shirt riding on this, brother. Okay, what would you call the pathology that runs the system and engine of white hegemony?
Well, I would call it white hegemony.
One more time. Now, again, much love. I'm only going back and forth just with love. So you're saying the energy and the core and the pathology that runs white hegemony is white hegemony?
Well, what runs white hegemony? Is white hegemony unto itself is pathology.
And what would you? I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead. I'm cut you off. Go ahead.
And so, if you ask how is it created, how was it expanded, how was it sustained?
Yeah,
that's a different discussion. But white hegemony and global white domination itself is the disease, not something like was. Oh yeah. Hello,
Skip. Let me hold for a second. Here's what I'm saying, right? I think what most of us are saying, we're not. So I don't. None of us subscribe to the concept that whites are supreme. We know that's a fallacy. That's a fluke. But what we're trying to reach to is that the mindset that propels and creates such a system. I thought, or based, and I am a disciple of Neely Fuller, so I do have that framework. But like that seems like that's the radical root. The radical root to this seems like it is white supremacy. And again, I'm not saying they're supreme. We know it's a fallacy. We know it's flawed. But it is that perspective, I guess, that lens of the universe, which made all this. That's why we're talking on this goddamn Zoom, trying to figure this thing out. It's because we're up against a system whose perspective, 360 degrees, is of white supremacy, and it does it so well that it creates replicants, which is kind of us and other people.
What you're saying, Dre? What you're saying is white people's belief in their supremacy is what creates their supremacy.
That's what I'm trying to get to. Let me know where I'm wrong. Let me know.
Huh?
Yeah, that's what I'm proposing. Yes.
But you know that there are other groups that believe that they are, for lack of a better term, centers of the universe.
Agreed.
Did not bring about an omnicidal system of global domination.
Agreed.
There are several cultures that we could point to.
Agreed.
That we would define as seeing themselves as the divine.
And all I'm saying, my brother, is that's why we gotta call it white, because that's the rare form that populated that was able to do it.
Okay, but here's the problem with that.
Okay.
How did white people come to dominate the world? Did they outthink us?
No, they're just evil people.
Wait. Just say yes or no. Did they outthink us?
Did they outthink us? I don't like to give them credit, Diallo.
I don't give them credit.
But we in this position, so I gotta say they kind of did outthink us, I guess. No. Skip, you see what I'm saying? Skip, did I lose you? I can't lose you, Skip. I gotta make sure you on the same way.
No, bro.
My bad, bro. All I'm saying is like that, like their perspective, like how they believe everything should be in their favor, is this is the outbirth of that. And so when we shift from calling it white hegemony, which to me the hegemony is like
hold on. Dre.
Yes, brother.
Listen to me.
I'm
very
trying.
careful.
Okay.
When you look at white people and their rise to prominence,
yes,
and you do a comparative, a cultural contrast between Asians, Africans, first world peoples or new world peoples, aboriginals, anthropologists, geneticists, historians have found that not only Western Europe was not at the apex of human development, philosophy, technology, irrigation, architecture, literature, that Europe was well behind.
Agreed.
And if you had to determine what component or what aspect of Western characteristics or white feature that allowed them to come to where they are today. And even when you look, you're familiar with that movie Hidden Figures.
Yeah.
When it was Hidden Niggas.
Exactly.
And now they're giving tours of Chicago
Sisters,
University.
yeah,
Allow me to finish. Come on, don't make
call
me
Hidden
mute you,
Sisters.
Dre.
At least call
Just
it
hear
sisters.
me out.
I'm listening. I'm on your side. I'm on your side, brother.
They weren't sisters.
Okay.
They weren't our sisters.
My bad.
Not
They
my
weren't our
sisters.
sisters.
You
You're
can
right.
fly the white man to the moon and be my sister, but I mean, if you wouldn't break
Okay.
ties with
Question:
somebody,
how would you treat
and
them?
I said, no, let me get to my point, Dre.
How'd you treat them when they went to the
We
big
ain't got
house?
much time.
How'd you treat them when they went to the big house?
Hold
When they
on,
came back
listen
the
to
big
me.
house,
I'm
how'd you
trying
treat
to give you. Okay, you don't want. I leave it alone.
I do, brother. I'm trying to
That's a
speak.
doghouse. Give it a bone.
Come
I'm
on,
leave it
brother. I'm on your
alone.
side. I'll stop. Go
Go,
ahead.
Dre,
I'll
you
go
go.
on mute. I'll go on
It's your
mute.
show. You got your time. Use your minute and go ahead and say what you got to say. Cause
I'm just trying to say I'm on your same side. I'm on your same side,
Who's
brother. Trust me.
done?
My bad. Go ahead, Diallo. I apologize.
I'm
brother.
done, man. I'm done. I try to give you some clarification and to try to demonstrate to you that they are not your supreme or superior.
But Diallo,
You don't want to hear it.
I know they're
Call
not.
them supreme,
Diallo, listen.
and I'm not going to deny you your right.
Okay, let me give him the last minute.
White man is supreme to you. He is above you. Go for it.
I'll take the last minute.
Knock yourself unconscious.
Diallo, brother, I am not saying they're supreme. I know they're not supreme. What they're supreme is the lunacy.
No.
So what are they supreme? Like what? Okay, why?
Go ahead. I'll give you your minute, and then we're gonna move on.
Come on the same page, brother. Seriously, I am. I know they're not supreme. I'm not lost in that fact. I know they were lagging, but they're lagging behind us. What I'm saying is that.
Say that.
They're not lagging behind us. They weren't. You just said that though. You just said they were behind us.
I didn't say anything.
I apologize. I thought you just said they were behind in all ecological standards.
Nothing. I wish I tried to just say something, but I
agree with you. That's all I was saying. I agree with that.
You don't know what I was going to say. What do you agree with?
I'm sorry. I'm going to be all you, please. I really want to talk about this.
But done. Next, try again next time.
I'll try again next week. Much love, brother. Skip, thanks for your time, baby. Y'all be good.
Nilly Fuller is a good place to start, but not a place you need to stop at.
That's why I'm here, though. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's how I got here. That's what I'm trying to say. I get it. That's why I got here, brother. I went through Dr. Carr, and he mentioned Dr. Ball. I said, oh, shoot, BBM.
Okay, good,
and now I got him. And every Friday.
You're on your way. You're on your way.
And I'm trying to get further. That's what I'm trying to say. What's the definition then? That's all I'm saying.
I'm with you.
Peace and love.
Peace. L, you're live with Skip and Bro Diallo. Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Hello. Happy to listen to you all today. I was going to say something else, but I was a bit taken by the other caller. I think white hegemony is the fine framework to also define the pathology that propels white domination. I'm a bit stuck on why supremacy would need to be the word. I've been studying interpersonal neurobiology and talking with other practitioners of color about the neurobiology of racism in particular, which is stuff we kind of do in the underground and don't involve any white practitioners in. But the idea that white people actually think of themselves as supreme, I find to be a bit problematic. From like the history, I think white people saw an opportunity and took it and then created systems to propel their domination, not because they inherently thought that they were they were better. And that's just going back, looking at the way that the Greeks talked about the Black other in particular and taking us to now. There was a lot of creating of a narrative, not that they were like, I don't know if that makes sense. But another point that I was taken with today was that we have no friends, which is great because I'm autistic and I have very few friends. So I was like, oh, love that point. But I grew up, I'm an immigrant. I immigrated here from where I live on the West Coast, from Kingston, Jamaica, when I was quite young. And I grew up with family that are predominantly Vietnamese. My dad married a Vietnamese woman. They met in the Peace Corps. And so they're South Vietnamese. They're refugees of the war in the 70s and got placed in Southern Oregon. And what you were saying in particular when we're talking about that earlier today when we touched on the topic, I found it interesting. It's a lot of South Vietnamese folks are Christian, and the way in which Christianity helps warp their perspective of what they think Black people are, what they think Black people do. And a lot of other Vietnamese folks I've met who have immigrated here later, and this is obviously my anecdotal experience, but I guess it could be argued that anecdotes make up statistics. But those folks who are more entrenched in understanding like communism and have spent more time in Vietnam look at communism a little bit differently and are not so entrenched with Christianity. They tend to also not be Christian. And so that is this divide I'm finding. And when I speak to people, they have a better reality understanding of Black people when they're not religious whatsoever. And especially when they're not Christians. From my experience growing up with a lot of evangelical Vietnamese folks and the way in which they propel Christianity and capitalism as kind of their two doctrines, along with anti-Blackness. But those are things just that stood out to me today. But thank you. I appreciate you all setting up this space.
All right, I appreciate your insights as well and sharing with us.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
You too. All right, we're gonna try again with West Bank Bell. West Bank.
Sir. Peace.
Sorry we missed you on the
Like
first
you from the West Bank?
No, bro, this is it's a neighborhood in Minneapolis.
Oh,
West
okay.
Bank.
That's why I was asking. Okay, right on. I know good people from Minnesota though.
Oh, for sure, bro. Yeah, man. I think we spoke on this point before, honestly, about again, man. I'm obsessed with people centering their own ethnicity, right, and kind of alienating themselves in this delineation movement almost that's taking a lot of space in social media, on the internet, and you might see it in real life too, honestly. And again, it's no different than what's happening on the African continent, the islands, right? Like a lot of us see the world through our lenses, our ethnicity, right? It's very personalized, and so a lot of us we end up having this struggle when it comes to like being African or like, or having this like wholesome embrace of what Blackness means, and so, and I made a comment earlier about just like, some people have, they really have a hard time, saying that they're Black, right? They'll just speak to their own ethnicity. And the same thing here in America, but my question for you guys is, man, and I've seen this play out, like even in the city, when it comes to resources, right? Like somebody might say like, oh, they're giving it to the immigrants. And somebody might say, oh, they're giving it to this specific group. And my question always is like, do you really think if they were to eliminate this other group that they were going to give you the resources, right? Where you end up being upset with another group who's marginalized, who's struggling just like you. You know what I mean? Like, and I still don't get where that comes from. This idea that, I think Tariq and them are pushing this too, where it's like, yeah, we'll vote for this and, forget the immigrants and forget this. We need to focus on ourselves. And I'm like, okay, then what? You think America go give you something? Like, so yeah, and I don't know if you guys heard that before, but I just wanted to get your y'all insight on that.
Well, yeah, I think there was a time in the 60s where there was understood that fighting each other over crumbs was a losing strategy, and that people started to reorient themselves in understanding that the divide and conquer tactics were only serving to reinforce and sustain those in power. It is a mistake to think that that I talk about the white man's justice jar, where people look at justice and resources as something that the white man has a limited amount of, and when he dispenses justice out to us. When he doesn't dispense justice or resources, he hoards resources and he imposes injustice. So it is a zero-sum game when Black people, like here in the Chicago, there was $250 million proposed for refugee relief, and Black people were mad at the refugees when they don't even understand that a lot of times when white people are giving aid and relief, they're actually giving money to the white middle class. When they talk about foreign aid, they aren't sending money. They're sending manufactured goods. They're going to private white-owned corporations to give them the money. And they send their surplus overseas. So people are so mad about, oh, they sending all this money to Ukraine. No, they're giving that money to Elon Musk, to Boeing, to Cargill, to Monsanto,
right,
to these multinational corporations. And then the resources that are manufactured in abundance went there. And as you said, if they didn't send it overseas, it would not come to us, because that's not how the welfare system works. If you just go to like military storage and military warehouse and military surplus, they're going to spend the money on the weapons, on the over reproduction, on all the cars, and then they have this large yards full of resources where they just sit, tanks and planes and helicopters, and they have warehouses and warehouses of guns and guns and ammunition. They manufacture, whether it is the, what did they call it, the military industrial complex. So yeah, you're onto something when you say, even if they didn't give them money, which is fictional, it's fiat, money is made up.
right.
So when they talk about they giving them money, meaning ain't gonna be no money left for us, or they giving them rights and ain't no rights left over for us. They giving them jobs and ain't no jobs left over for us. That's not how this economy works.
Right. And do you think, like, is some of these movements ethno-centered movements, in a sense, like, you think it's all the way genuine in a way where people are just trying to, amplify their own existence or identity, so to speak, where they feel like, man, if you call me any other thing except, FBA or ADOS or, Eritrean or Jamaican, that you're erasing, that part of them, rather than, somebody saying, what up, African? Peace, African. You're like, no, I ain't African. I'm Jamaican. No, I ain't African. I'm Black American. Like, is that at times genuine, you think, or is it just like people are just so far gone that we're just?
I think it's genuine. I think it's both. They are genuine and they're far gone. Right. One does not preclude the other. You can be genuine in your self-hatred and far gone at the same time.
Yeah. Man, I appreciate you guys, man. Have a good night.
You as well. Appreciate you, bro. Thanks for holding on.
Yes, sir.
So you ready to close us out, Skip, or did you have?
Let's do it, because bro,
it's a marathon tonight. Appreciate you, bro. You can close us out.
Thank you for community. Thank you for space. Thank you for time. Thank you for one another. Thank you for grace and the willingness to struggle with ideas and thoughts. Amen.
All right, bro. Week after next.
Hey, man, I'm ready.
Huh?
I'm ready. I'm through with all had about Wednesday night soccer. So I'm here on Wednesdays. I beat you here tonight.
Yeah, you did. Okay. Nobody knew that except me and you, but I guess you got to let that be known.
Yeah, I gotta get my haircut.
On me, I guess.
I gotta get my haircut.
Why I be hating on everybody. Anyway, appreciate you, bro.
The question said we got one more question.
Can we go after you close us out?
I mean, I like.
Go ahead. You want to violate the
questions? I just don't see the questions
and the protocols.
Right on. All right, now we just getting thanks. All right, right on to the real.
All right.